Some interesting card selection there. Domestication main, a disperse main.
Yeah, so it's basically it's back to being that Elixir of Immortality style control deck, but it does have a couple one-ofs. It has a one of Aetherling, Syncopate, Essence Scatter, Disperse, Domestication. Things get interesting in the sideboard. He'll be against a Jeremy Maciolek, who's
Yeah,
playing red-white
and
aggro.
we say red-white aggro, but really he's more of the red-white Nykthos deck that we've been seeing a lot of. It's Perforos, God of the Forge in his deck, along with 2 copies of Hammer of Perforos, which is obviously going to be really huge in this matchup if he can get it to resolve. He does have those cards like Ash Zealot, which can put some pressure on him, along with Fanatic Amogus. He has 2 copies of Elixir of Immortality in his deck, which I actually wonder if it's not a misprint, but I've never seen this in the mono red list before.
Yeah, I haven't myself either. We'll see though. Both players just trading trading temples, and Jeremy will have the first play of the game. It's Frostburn Weird.
And this matchup is usually, I'd say, in blue-white's favor. It really comes down to how many of Stormbreath Dragons and whether or not red-white Devotion can resolve a Hammer Perforos. That card's very, very good.
Yeah, Hammer is in Jeremy's opening hand, so we will see if he can get one down. Just a third land comes into play tapped from Sullivan. And the first thing will be from Frostburn Weird. We'll see whether or not that meets any Azorius Charms. It does not.
And here,
or it will. We're seeing.
So he really only has to fear Syncopate. So
yeah,
let's see if he tries to go for that or if he goes for the Chandra in his hand.
Looks like he's going to be a little more. Looks like he's going to start with Burning Tree Emissary and see where it goes from there. It's just straight into Chandra.
Yeah, because if he decided to lead with Burning Tree, you'd imagine he would have cast it pre-combat. Because if the hammer resolves, he could attack with the Burning Tree as well.
Sure. So Chandra will immediately plus go to 5. Adrian's down to 19 and facing a couple varied threats on the other side of the board.
Yeah, so Adrian's in a tough spot here. This is one of the ways that blue-white control really has a headache when there's diversity of threats that they have to contend with. It puts a lot of pressure on cards like the Tension Sphere.
All right, so we see Adrian contemplating whether or not to cycle an Azorius Charm on end step. Looks like he has a lot of card draw. We see Divination hanging out in his hand, but right now it seems like tempo is what's more important. So he's a little bit behind the gun.
Yeah, so let's see what Adrian's going to do in this turn.
All right.
Looks like he does have a 4th land.
All right, he cycles the Azorius Charm, makes a 4th land drop.
And Adrian of the school of where he plays his cards
so
that his opponents can read them. Very, very, very nice. I gotta say, it's a nice touch there.
All right, well Jace will be plussed, but the tap out there does mean that Maciolek's going to get a chance to resolve any number of other cards. We'll see if he can. Look, he does have what I believe to be a Stormbreath Dragon. If he can find another land for it, he can put a lot of pressure down.
So he could play Burning Tree and Hammer, pump his Frostburn Weird, attack Jace down for 2, so fall to 3, and then he could actually ping the Chandra. Or he can just zero the Chandra to try and find that 5th land.
Yeah. So I think that's what he has to decide here, is whether or not he wants to take the play he knows about or the possible better play by zeroing. But if he misses on the land, then it's a worse line.
Yeah, I think if you miss on the land, it's terrible. Plus, Stormbreath won't even be able to kill the Jace. So I kind of like getting 2 permanents in play and dropping the Jace down to 2. That puts the Adrian in the position where he won't be able to generate cards off of it unless he loses it on his turn.
Yeah, and also getting that hammer down is really, that will really help Jeremy going forward because it provides yet another type of threat that Adrian has to deal with.
Exactly. So now you're dealing with a Hammer, Perforos, Chandra, along with creatures. Neither is answered with just 1 card.
All right, so he's going to go ahead and zero Chandra. He does find the land. That was the best outcome, and now he's going to get a lot of plays available to him.
So let's see here. He could play Burning Tree, Hammer, and now pump the Frostburn Weird for 2, so he can drop the Chandra. He can still drop Jace down to 2.
Yep, he could. Yeah, absolutely. That is.
I kind of like that play, just because if you cast a dragon here, you still drop the Jace down to 2.
Right. Well, he's just going to go ahead and attack Jace. He's going to triple pump, and that will put the Jace down to 3. But he will not. That does mean he will not get to make hammer this turn.
No, I don't think he has any. Yeah, he doesn't have mana left.
He pumped it all the way up to a 4. Yeah, he dropped Jace down to 2 on its own. So he just pumped the Frostburn Weird.
Okay, so maybe he doesn't have a Burning Tree in his hand. Maybe we're not sure. Yeah, it looks like a. Oh, look. Nah,
It's a pair of Burning Trees, I believe.
Oh. Oh well, in that case, yeah. If he gets the hammer into play, then I think he's able to actually deal with the Jace that turn. But either way, Adrian here has a tough decision. Does he want to cash in that Jace? Not sure what's in his hand right here.
Yeah, I think he does. It was left at 2. It certainly isn't surviving the next turn. He cashes it in. He hits Detention Sphere, Supreme Verdict to dissolve. Pretty good draw. As long as he takes the Sphere, he actually only is facing a Frostburn Weird on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I kind of like this is a great situation for Adrian because he's likely going to get Detention Sphere or no. I don't imagine Jeremy's going to give him Supreme Verdict.
It looks like Adrian's a little light on mana sources right now, but he does have a lot of removal. So it's really just about life total preservation here. So we see he takes the Detention Sphere. He's going to go ahead and cast it on the Chandra.
And yep, it looks like he does have another land, but it is a Scry land.
All right, so he will once again be tapped out. We'll see if Jeremy can get down the rest of his threats.
And you know, I'm surprised he actually went after the Chandra so quickly because Chandra is actually not that backbreaking for Adrian. I mean, it's obviously good, but I don't think it's something he has to deal with right away. I'm not sure what the rest of Adrian's hand is, but if he had a counterspell, I think I might have just played a land and passed. I mean, obviously you want that Detention Sphere for later on, but I'm not sure you needed to deal with the Chandra right away.
Chandra Ultimate is not a huge threat. Chandra's really just gains value every turn you leave it around.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's a little value to be gained from Jeremy's side, but I wouldn't be as concerned about cards like. I'd be more concerned about cards like Perforos or Hammer Perforos.
All right, so we'll see. On Jeremy's side, that will be Hammer of Perforos and both Burning Tree Emissaries.
So yeah, you're right. He did have them, and now he's going to be able to attack for 2, 5, 7.
Yeah, he did have a third Burning Tree Emissary, which he declined to make. The remainder of his hand is a land, a Burning Tree, and a Chain to the Rock. So this is really all his threats. But I think he's going to go ahead and shock for the third land so he can get a 3/3 down this turn as well. Or
looks like
for a triple pump.
So this is a great situation for Jeremy. He's going to be able to knock Adrian down to 10. So even if Adrian does have a Supreme Verdict, he still has that hammer in play, along with the dragon that you mentioned in his hand. So here we see a Supreme Verdict. Okay, so Supreme Verdict takes out Jeremy's side of the board. Let's see what Jeremy has here. Oh, it looks like he just has, So he has a mountain.
He has a Burning Tree Emissary, yeah.
So it was a Burning Tree, not a dragon. So, but he still has that hammer, so he can start cranking out 3/3s.
Yeah, now time is a little of the essence here. He's got Adrian does have a Sphinx's Revelation, and that should pretty much be expected. So Burning Tree Emissary played, hammer activated, and sacks a mountain. That'll make 5 power on the board, all with haste, thanks to Hammer of Perforos. But that is it for threats right now. Jeremy's last card is a Chain to the Rock, so that'll be no help.
So Adrian will drop to 5 unless he has a Last Breath.
Yeah, no Last Breath, no Charm. He's down to 5.
So not bad, not the worst shape for Adrian right here. Like you said, he still has that Sphinx Revelation. It doesn't have another mana though. So
yeah, he drew a Azorius Charm. So his hand actually it's a little bit of a wealth of card draw. It looks like he has a pair of Revelations, some Divinations, a Azorius Charm, and a Dissolve. Lots of, if he can stabilize the board, he will be far enough ahead that none of this matters. That he'll be far enough ahead to take the game. But the question is, how can he get to that point?
I thought he's going to have to lead with Divination here and try to draw another land. So now, if he has another land, he could actually. Oh well, he drew a Detention Sphere, so that's huge. But unfortunately, he's at 5,
he's
so
at
he
5.
can't actually do it.
He can't cast it.
So he has an Azorius Charm, and it looks like he has a Last Breath too, but he doesn't have another land, so he won't be able to do Azorius Charm and Last Breath.
Yeah, I don't know if he can survive through this turn, actually. I think, Rev for 3 wasn't enough. I don't think he had a line that actually survived through this turn, unfortunately, despite the fact that he had all these different assorted cards in his hand.
Well, if he drew another land and was able to cast Azorius Charm and Last Breath,
then he'd be
then
fine.
he'd survive. But so I think he had to cast a Divination there and try to play the odds.
Well, there's another odd play here is that Jeremy's gone ahead and gone for this attack without making another creature, so that does give Adrian the out he needs.
So Adrian did get there with the perfect.
Yeah, and if Jeremy had made another 3/3 there, this would be lethal, but it is not. Adrian only takes 2 off the Burning Tree Emissary.
Wow.
And that last draw was Mizium Mortars on Jeremy, so Jeremy, he missed a lethal attack there.
So yeah, Jeremy could have killed Adrian, but let's see if Adrian's gonna come back from this. He's still at 3, and he's facing down a Hammer Peripheral. So Hammer's gonna be able to make a creature at the end of Adrian's turn, and then he's gonna be able to make a guy on his turn.
Jeremy makes 2 more, he's still good. If he only makes 1 and misses that attack, though, then Adrian can Revelation here to stay alive once again.
Yeah. So let's see if Jeremy's gonna make another creature on his turn as well.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Jeremy draws for the turn. Whatever he draws is kind of irrelevant because as long as he just activates.
As long as he activates the hammer here, he's fine.
So he scries here.
Yeah, if he doesn't activate the hammer, though, Sullivan will be able to rev for 3, and I think stabilize.
And here we go. We're going to get an activation.
We're going to get it this time. All right. Hammer will activate, sacking a land. That should be lethal.
The question is,
power.
Well, I'm not sure. What I know Adrian has at least 1 Azorius Charm.
If he has 2, then it's good.
So
and the swing will be it. So game 1 to Jeremy Maciolek.
So Adrian almost able to come out from that, despite it looking really bad for him early on. But Jeremy, the power of Hammer Peripherals powers him through game 1. And now we move over to the second game. And Jeremy's side, he's got 2 copies of Wear and Tear, which surely are going to come in because, like we said, one of the few ways that Adrian's deck can deal with a hammer is with Detention Sphere. So definitely bringing in those Wear and Tears. He has 4 copies of Boros Charm, which, they're not amazing in this matchup because you don't really overwhelm the board with creatures. So you don't care too much about protecting Supreme Verdict, but it'd be interesting to see. I actually don't see a lot of these decks play Boros Charm in their sideboard, so if you're going to play it, you'd imagine it's against Supreme Verdict. So probably he's going to bring it in, I guess. He's got 1 copy of Chain to Rocks, 3 Anger of the Gods, 3 Warriors Helix, which probably aren't going to come in. He also has 2 copies of Assemble the Legion. So Assemble the Legion probably better than Elixir of Immortality. So I'd expect to see, the Chain to the Rocks, the Mizium Mortars, and the Elixirs come out for some number of Boros Charm, Wear and Tear, and Assemble the Legion.
Yeah, certainly has a lot of cards that he can side out here. On Adrian's side, his board is fairly interesting, and I kind of want to look through some of the pieces of it. He has Blind Obedience in the sideboard as a 1-up. He's a lot of 1-ups, and that's when I would expect to see it. I'd expect to see Blind Obedience. I'd expect to see the second Domestication, actually, in this matchup. There's plenty of really good cards. Boros Reckoner among the top of them that he can hit with it. He has Negate, which is great against Assembles, Chandras, and Hammers. Other than that, he has a Keening Apparition, which could be used to take out a hammer. That would be the only thing it target. Well, actually, it takes hammer and Assembles.
I think it's only enchantments, though.
Yeah. The legendary.
Oh, that's right.
Legendary
enchantment. That's correct.
They're legendary artifact enchantments.
And it could also take out Assemble Legion if he thinks that he might be facing that as well.
So I think there's a fair number of cards that he can board in there. All those are 1-ups that I expect to see him use. And Celestial Flare, the last one, it's a great answer to Storm Breath Dragon. I think a lot of the cards, he has to make sure that he is boarding out some of the slower cards in this matchup. Cards like Dissolve are good, but they are slow, especially because the other deck can power out things with Nick, though. So you need the ability, I think, to cast 2 spells in 1 turn from Adrian is really important.
Yeah, I also don't think Disperse is really something that you need in your main deck after board. Jace Architect, I thought I also could see him maybe shaving some of those numbers. Not sure if you can really afford to tap out for Jace sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely like the Celestial Flare because it's one of your few answers to a Stormbreath Dragon, and definitely like bringing another Domestication because just keeping him off Devotion sometimes is good enough. So even just taking a Frostburn Weird can be huge.
Right.
But after board, we'll see how it goes. Again, I think that the blue-white player is still in decent shape just because Jeremy's deck can kind of get blown out by cards like Supreme Verdict at times, given what their strategy is. I mean, Devotion decks in general have a tough time with Supreme Verdict-based decks. But he does have a lot of haste cards. So it's the Stormbreath Dragons and the Hammer of Proforos. Not only do they fuel his Devotion and make his Fanatic and Mogus even better, but they're very difficult for a control deck to deal with.
Yeah, when the red-white Devotion deck gets ahead, it becomes difficult for blue-white to come back. That said, there are a lot of cards that blue-white can ignore to a certain point. There are still Burning Tree Emissaries and Frostburn Weirds. Those are cards that the blue-white control player can let sit around for a while they take care of the more important cards.
Yeah, the difficult thing for Adrian, though, is going to be, game one's really the game he needs to win because, Jeremy's deck has so many dead cards game one, like Chain to the Rocks and Mizium Mortars. And we saw in this game, he had two of them in his hand, yet Adrian still wasn't able to overcome Jeremy's start. So Adrian's definitely going to be feeling the pressure in games 2 and 3, but I still kind of like his position. So we'll see here. Both players are going to examine their opening hands, see if they're comfortable.
Yes, we do see Wear Tear has been boarded in from Jeremy. There are no Pithing Needles in Adrian's sideboard, so the Wear Tear can only be a 1-for-1. It's not going to 2-for-1 here.
So Jeremy had a hand of Ash Zealot, Nykthos, and Assemble the Legion, but it didn't look like he had enough lands to really... obviously, that kind of draw is really difficult for Adrian's deck to deal with because, all right, he's playing a 2-2 Haster, but he also has this annoying card like Assemble the Legion. Plus, Nykthos can randomly generate a lot of mana for him. So it would have been good for him, but unfortunately, he just didn't have enough mana to get that hand going.
Yeah, so down to 6. Boros Charm has also come in. And this one probably will be a keep from Jeremy. And we are underway, starting off with a Scryland from Sullivan.
And a keep, so Sullivan's going to be drawing something that he wants, and it looks like it's a land, so he's just going to be developing his mana base.
Yeah, and there's the one of Elixir of Immortality. Jeremy does actually... Okay, so he could blow it up right now if he had Wear Tear. I still don't think he would do that given the chance.
Yeah, probably still going to hold it, but looks like he does have the Boros Charm. Is that what's going to happen? Yep, so he's going to
send the Boros Charm upstairs. I suppose there are very few creatures for him in his hand to protect, so he's going to go eyes on the prize.
Bold maneuver against an Elixir of Immortality of play.
Yeah, that actually makes Elixir look really good. Gaining 5 is better than... Adrian, let's go ahead. All right. Adrian will demonstrate that his card is more efficient.
Oh, so your plan is turn 2 Boros Charm me, eh? Well, in that case.
I have quite an answer for that. So Adrian's up to 21.
So Adrian plays a Temple of Deceit, and again, he's going to keep the card on top of his library.
Yeah, Adrian did the main phase Elixir there so that he could play the Temple and get value out of it.
Got it. So now he's able to make sure that if he does scry and he keeps to the top, he won't have to activate. So here, Adrian's just playing land go. Definitely favors Adrian right here. Early, Jeremy just doesn't have any action right here. He does have a Storm Breath in his hand, so he can try to lead out with it. Hope Adrian doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, he had a Fanatic of Mogus that he was choosing. I was going to say not to play earlier. He's going to start, it looks like, on Fanatic, though. Yeah, pretty innocuous 4-2. Adrian's going to let that resolve.
Yeah, I think, it looks like he does have a Sphinx Revelation and a Supreme Verdict in his hand.
Yep, I like how Adrian's playing this. He's just continuing to draw cards. And he'll main phase Revelation
Probably
for 3.
Playing around Skullcrack here, it looks like. So he's going to go up to 23, but he will take potentially 8 damage if Jeremy decides to play Stormbreath next turn, so he could drop to 15 life. But again, he's got that Supreme Verdict in his hand, so I think he's fine.
Yeah, it seems great. War Leader Helix was the draw for Jeremy. So we'll see. Yeah, 6 lands there. Jeremy was on a mulligan. The rest of his cards do seem to be business spells. He's got another Boros Charm, a War Leader's Helix.
Oh, wow. So now that he has a Boros Charm, I have to imagine he's not going to lead with Stormbreath yet. So he's just going to attack with Fanatic and probably just be content with trying to figure out a way to deal with, have Adrian deal with the Fanatic.
So, yeah, he's waiting to play Stormbreath on 7 so that he can have Boros Charm back up for it.
So now he has War Leader's Helix, so he can put a little more pressure on Adrian's life. Obviously the Fanatic hits for 4, so it's not an insignificant threat, but...
All right, a tap for 4 from 5 from Adrian is going to be Debtor's Pulpit. This is something he sided in out of the sideboard. So Debtor's Pulpit saw a little bit of play in block as... it is one of the only ways to answer a resolved Aetherling. In a control mirror, it actually permanently stops an Aetherling, who's like one of 2 cards in the format that did, other than Pithing Needle.
And surprisingly enough, it also stops Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, stops
the land gains the ability, it's not the enchantment.
Exactly. So it's actually a pretty good play right here. I know it's a card that has been on Adrian's list for quite a while, so 1 out of the board.
So pretty good draw there for Adrian. Now he's able to lock down. He's going to basically force the issue for Jeremy to commit more to the board into Supreme Verdict. Looks like Adrian drew another Sphinx's Revelation. So let's see what he wants to do here. Does he want to just cast Supreme Verdict right here?
Said Frostburn Weird made for Maciolek, and Adrian will just sweep the board. Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. Gets rid of the creatures, make sure Jeremy keeps Jeremy off Devotion.
And
there's the Boros Charm.
Adrian seems perfectly okay with that. He still has plenty of tools in his hand.
And ooh, wow, there's another Fanatic. So
yeah, so Jeremy's representing quite a lot of damage right now, so Adrian will have to be careful here.
yeah, so let's see here. Does Jeremy just want to cast Stormbreath and pit? Like, he doesn't have a Boros Charm to protect him now. So does he? He could drop Jeremy down to Adrian down to 10, I believe.
Well, Debtor's Pulpit will still tap
Oh,
one
that's
of the
right.
creatures, so yeah, and as he goes to attack, it's going to go ahead and tap the Fanatic. So an attack just for 3 there from Jeremy. Adrian's contemplating whether to take it. It looks like Jeremy, you can see he's at the ready for his follow-up play to be another Fanatic of Mogus. Adrian's going to go ahead and disperse the Frostburn Weird.
And disperse, a card I thought maybe he wouldn't keep in, but
it still gives you plenty of
gives
utility.
him a fog there. Yeah, it does allow him to bounce, a hammer Perforos if he needs to.
Right, another Supreme Verdict from Sullivan, and this one's going to stick as it clears the board. And with 4 cards, Adrian will send the turn back. Now we see land 7 from Maciolek. And Stormbreath Dragon will immediately get Essence Scattered.
Yeah, and even though he's got the Debtor's Pulpit, I like countering it there. You don't want to... Debtor's Pulpit still doesn't deal with the fact that he can Monstrous the Stormbreath Dragon.
Exactly. And Jeremy continues to reload. This time it's going to be Frostburn Weird, followed up by Fanatic of Mogus.
That will potentially drain Adrian for 3.
Yep, it'll hit him for 3. And Adrian's fine with that, but he will Sphinx's Revelation. For the entire amount, that's going to be for 6. That'll put him up to 22 after the stack's done resolving. And things are looking squarely in his favor. Especially against a red deck, it's hard to lose after a Sphinx for 6.
Yeah, it's just Jeremy just didn't do enough early on to really impact the board. And unlike Mono Black, they don't have cards like Underworld Connections that can kind of draw them back into the game.
Yeah, Stormbreath, Hammer Perforos, and Dissemble the Legion are his late game cards. If he can draw one, he's going to have to draw one and resolve one before Adrian finds a Detention Sphere, but Revelation for 6 almost assures that either Adrian has a sphere or he has the card draw to go get one.
Yeah.
And now the win condition comes out. So Adrian, this is a 1 of in his deck. It's a 1 of Elspeth, and he will play and plus it.
So he's got the Debtor's Knell, and he also has the Debtor's Pulpit, rather, and he also has Celestial Flare in his hand as well, along with an Uptech Elspeth. And those tokens will be coming into play as soon as the judge finds it.
Yeah, there will be a Hammer. Hammer was drawn for Jeremy, so he's going to get a chance to make that. That is if Adrian does not have a counterspell for it, and after, I would suspect he does.
But either way, it's difficult for Hammer to trump Elspeth at this point in the game.
Very hard to trump Elspeth.
Adrian's firmly in the driver's seat here. So here we go. We're going to get some Elspeth tokens into play here. And let's see. Jeremy's just going to probably just play the Hammer here.
Yeah, I would think so. So, yeah, he's going to have to find a way past the Elspeth. The difficulty for him is that Adrian is at 18, and the Pulpit's actually doing a lot of work here. I think the effect on Pulpit's actually a very powerful effect. Obviously the thing that keeps down the card is that it's a 5-mana aura for your land. That's a lot to ask of a card. But once it's down, it answers Aetherlings, it answers Blood Barons. Against even answers Stormbreaths, it's pretty good against any creature deck.
Yeah, and as a 1 of, I think it's fine. It's definitely an interesting sideboard option. So Adrian decided to dissolve the Stormbreath Dragon from Jeremy, which, again, making sure that Monstrous ability doesn't come into play. The Monstrous would be able to redirect to the Elspeth, so it would be a way for Jeremy to deal with the Elspeth.
All right, and -2 from Jace finds Celestial Flare, Mutavault. I don't know if there's anything in particular that Adrian needs to find at this point, but more cards are always a welcome addition. Adrian will grab the pair of Mutavaults, it looks like, shipping Celestial Flare to the bottom.
I think at this point, Jeremy has to hope that Adrian just decides to stop playing and leave.
Yeah,
Just concede.
That's his out.
He's got to hope that Adrian gets an important phone call and has to leave immediately. Short of that,
yeah.
I don't see Jeremy pulling out this game.
Well, he doesn't, like you said, he doesn't have an underworld connections or some sort of, he doesn't have some card that can draw him multiple cards. He only is drawing one card per turn, and when Adrian's playing something like, Adrian's playing Dissolve, it's going to be very hard for him to draw something that will get past that.
Yeah, Hammer Porphyros is basically his underworld connection, so to speak.
Right.
It's a way for him to generate continuous advantage against control decks that's difficult to answer. The problem is that you need to draw it early on for it to really have a big impact, and it requires mana each turn to use it too. So whereas Underworld Connection, you're basically just tapping one land to continue to get the advantage. You're basically spending almost your entire turn to activate the hammer.
All right, if you are just joining us, I'm Matthias Hunt, joined by Osip Levodovich. This is round 4 of the Star City Games Standard Open here in Nashville, Tennessee. We're seeing an undefeated match between Adrian Sullivan's blue-white control deck and Jeremy Maciolek's red-white devotion. We're in game 2. Jeremy took down the first, but is looking to be out for the second one. He did resolve a Hammer of Perforos and is trying to get back in the game with it, but Elspeth is still a commanding board presence.
Yeah, so he's going to be able to generate a 3/3 here. He's sacrificing a mountain, but Adrian still has that Debtor's Pulpit. He also has 2 Celestial Flares in his hand.
The Pulpit will go to work when he goes to attacks. It's going to tap down Frostburn weird.
Along with 6 Elspeth tokens, so we're going to see just everything jump in front of those creatures and kill them all.
Yeah, 4 in front of the Golem, 2 in front of the Fanatic of Mogus. All the creatures are traded. Adrian lost soldier tokens. Jeremy lost cards.
Yep, so Adrian still commanding position here. Looks like he drew another Dissolve, so he's just going to uptick Jace here.
Yeah, well, what he has going for him is that so Jeremy can make a 3/3 every turn, but Adrian can make 3 power worth of blockers every turn, so he actually can hold off the Hammer of Perforos that way and really just continue to draw cards.
Yeah, and the only difference is Hammer doesn't ultimate, whereas Elspeth will eventually get there.
I mean, all Adrian has to do is just keep the board at parity until eventually he hits a detention sphere for the Hammer.
Well, he doesn't
or
have
a verdict or something.
Adrian just if Adrian just dissolves this and then ultimates next turn, I think he's got this game.
Yeah, he goes ahead and he's going to dissolve the Chandra. Oh, he actually just has it on the attack.
Yeah, he's got 4 tokens plus a Mutavault, so I think.
Yeah, 2 Mutavaults.
Yeah, so that should be.
That should be more than enough with 2.
So Jeremy just surveying the board. Chandra got countered.
Yeah, this should be good. Adrian, just for good measure, will Sphinx his Revelation.
That seems like overkill.
3.
That seems like unsportsmanlike conduct. When you're going to ultimate Elspeth at your turn.
Can never be too safe.
That's true.
If there are no cards in Jeremy's hand, then it's probably okay to go for it.
So let's see what Adrian decides.
Some divination. Okay, detention sphere for the Hammer.
Ah. Going for the flawless victory.
And he will make a 3/3, but now he is tapped out. This should leave the path clear for Adrian to swing for the win.
Oh, so it looks like he's not.
Yeah, I don't think he's seen that he has the win this turn. And this is some place where I don't really fault players. If you have a winning line, I don't really fault people for not finding a faster winning line. It's like they all win. So sure, creatures block, trades happen, Adrian makes more tokens, passes back. This line wins, it just takes a turn longer.
Well, my only issue with plays like this, the blue-eye control players, they tend to get too cute, and you have to forget that every second matters when you're playing
the clock
control.
matters, sure.
The
so
clock
if you see
matters.
a quick win, you can do it.
So you have to try to close out games very quickly when you can, and sometimes I think it's too much when you make kind of plays like this. It's just a little too awkward.
Right, now Borosharm will take Elspeth down to 4.
It's like, yes, he's going to win the game, but it's basically going to cost them 3 minutes more, which might cost them down the road.
Sure.
Because,
certainly,
particularly this version of blue-white does not win quickly. If you have Debtor's Knell in your deck, there's Debtor's Pulpit in your deck, there's no way you win quickly.
That's not part of your game plan. All right, so now Mutavaults will join the fray. More soldier tokens will come in. This should only be 1, maybe 2 more turns of attacking. as it is now 10 power possible from Adrian, so Jeremy's down to 13. He will play a Temple Scry to the bottom, pass the turn back. And all right, so this game will be taken care of here. 2 more activations. This swings for 10. Jeremy's down to 3.
And then
three more soldier tokens.
Looks like he drew an Aetherling too.
Oh yeah,
let's cast
Aetherling.
Yeah, let's get him out of here.
He's just in case something goes wrong.
You see, and this is what I mean when I say like
stop
doing too much. It's like
stop activating your Jace. Yes, it is technically correct.
Technically, it's correct, but like your opponent has no cards in his hand.
You're wasting your own clock.
Yeah, you're wasting your own clock. It's like this is where having that little timer on Moto helps out. We should have a timer in real life. You should bring a timer with you when you're playing blue-white control, so that it flashes when you're going below 20 minutes, so that you know you need more time.
I've actually said when I play control, sometimes I'll try to do things to do the opposite to make the game go even faster. Like once I have this line, what I actually say is I'll tell my opponent out loud, be like, I'm going to plus Elspeth for the next 3 turns, hit you with them and make them unblockable and cast these 2 dissolves on your next 2 spells. And if they say okay, I'm like, all right, and I'll just like keep playing. But it's like tell them, I'm like, if you want to know what's going to happen, I'm giving you the chance to go to the next game now.
And that's the thing. Like Jeremy did the absolutely correct thing. Like even
though
it looks terrible for him, you make him play it out because Jeremy can certainly win in less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Adrian, his deck can't necessarily win in less than 20 minutes.
Like I said, these are Adrian's minutes that are being burned,
yeah.
not Jeremy's.
So
if the game goes this late, if the game goes to the point where those minutes mattered, then it was Adrian's minutes we were burning.
Yeah, because the game ended around 19 minutes and 30 seconds left, and now both players have to shuffle. They have to consider if they want to re-sideboard. That's going to take another 3 minutes potentially. So you're talking about almost starting the match at 15 minutes left.
Yep. Certainly true. Granted, with some of the post-board games, with some of the builds of blue-white, this has not become as much of a problem. You've seen the adoption of Bramaz for Archangel of Thune. Adrian is still really on the no-win con blue-white, though. You see he has the only way to speed up he has on the sideboard is a 1 of Jace Memory Adept. And that's actually a card, when I played the blue-white versions, I put 1 in the sideboard just for those corner cases where it's like game 3 starts with 8 minutes and I actually need to win. But it's a card I never board in outside of that situation.
It can actually allow you to win relatively quickly.
Yeah, we'll
but
see.
But he doesn't even have Archangel of Thrune, which is one of the cards that some people board in.
Right. It's a 1 slot. It's a dead card you can board in your deck to increase your clock. Is kind of how I viewed Jace.
Yeah. So Adrian still could win this match, but again, if it comes down to a draw and he needed 2 extra turns, he's going to be kicking himself for activating that chase.
Yeah.
And I think there's kind of conflicting messages sometimes where you kind of tell players to be diligent, to take the correct lines, and kind of make sure that you're playing correctly every single turn. At the same time, though, you have to also be aware of what your deck does and how much time is left in that round. It's very important that you don't want to make irrelevant plays, so to speak, when you don't need to. It's like, you know what the situation is. You know what your opponent could potentially do. Just try to win as quickly as you can at that point, because every minute's going to matter with your deck.
So players are getting ready to go to game 3 here. You notice the oversized penny on the table. If you've ever gone to a tournament with Adrian Sullivan at it, you've noticed that is what he throws before every match. It's rather a loud clang, so you can kind of hear it all around the room, but it's one of his signature things there.
I would not allow that. If he tried to do that against me, I'd be like, nope, we're rolling 2 dice.
That's fine. No, he'd roll dice with you. I've done that before, because I was also have not been entirely convinced.
Get your giant penny out of my face. I am not interested. So both players now going to check to see if their hands are good. And again, we're approaching 16 minutes now.
Yeah, 16 minutes remaining. So
and, Jeremy's going to mulligan.
So Jeremy Maciolek, the winner of Game 1. Adrian, winner of Game 2. We are on 3. These are 2 players at 3-0 here in the Star City Games Standard Open in Nashville, Tennessee.
And I got to say, Jeremy, very considerate player, because he just shuffled a couple of times and put it in the back. Some sketchier players might have just pile shuffled again and drawn a little more time off the clock.
I almost feel like that should be, like, there's no point to be pile shuffling. Pile shuffling, the purpose of pile shuffling is to count your deck, not to randomize your deck. And, like, the same number of cards are still there as they were last shuffle.
So Jeremy's going to keep his 6. It looks like he's got a Frostburn Weird there. And that's what we're going to see. Frostburn Weird. He does have that hammer, I believe. So not a bad mulligan for Jeremy.
No, and Adrian would need. So Adrian will last breath of turn 2 Frostburn Weird. So he's just going to try to 1-for-1 on cards here. So far, he's been successful.
And I don't think Adrian doesn't have any revoke existence in his sideboards, but he does have that keening apparition. So
yeah, he has keening apparition. Yeah, he plays Detention Sphere. We see a pair of Celestial Flares in his hand. Those won't be very helpful, though. We'll see if he has the Sphere here. He's going to play Temple of Enlightenment. He has an Azorius card in his hand. I'm not positive which one it is. I believe it's Detention Sphere.
Ooh, so Jeremy did draw a 4th land. He has double Fanatic Amogus as well as a Frostburn Weird. So let's see what he decides to lead with here.
All right, he's going to shock. Looks like it's going to be Fanatic. That'll be 3 off the hammer, off the devotion trigger. And, well, it's going to try to swing, but I think it'll swing right into the sun. And a Celestial Flare does take care of it.
So Jeremy's only able to do 3 damage that turn. And there's the Detention Sphere right off the top for Adrian.
Flying out of his hand.
And here's the thing. Can Adrian's in pretty, good situation. He's got a lot of answers to cards that Jeremy might have. But we're down to 14 minutes and 43 seconds left, so Jeremy has a Frostburn Weird and Fanatic.
This is Adrian. This is already Adrian's game to lose.
Yeah.
One of the things about the Devotion deck is it's got a lot of cogs and then a lot of heavy hitters. And right now it's like Jeremy's hands are all cogs. It's a draft deck right now. It's a Fanatic, a 4-2 for 4 and a 1-4 for 2. And Adrian's playing Sphinx's Revelations. Which, if you ever play against that card in draft, it's really good in a draft format.
Speaking of great draft cards.
So Jace will -2. It's looking for a land. Adrian cannot hit it. He was willing to sacrifice that Jace just to get a land. He does see Dissolve, Last Breath, Elspeth.
I would imagine he just goes Last Breath or no.
Oh, gross. It's
so
Dissolve or no. Adrian's got to take the white cards.
Yeah, you got to take Last Breath. I was actually going to take the Last Breath.
If it was
no matter
by
what.
itself,
If he gives me Last Breath Dissolve, you snap take that. But Last Breath Elspeth, I think you still take Last Breath.
Would you just take Last Breath? Or were you just taking the 2-card pile?
I mean, Last Breath, I think, given this board, but you might take Dissolve here just because you need to scry, and you don't want to lose the Stormbreath Dragon, but you have another Celestial Flare, so.
Right, it's like there's 2 ways of looking at it. When you do a J-Split, you either are taking the Last Breath or you're taking a 2-card pile.
Yeah, I kind of like the Last Breath just because you have a Celestial Flare, so if he plays like an Ash Zealot next turn.
Well, if he plays a Storm Breath, you actually can't. He has Verdict then.
Yeah, I think he has Supreme Verdict in his hand, so.
Yeah, so he ends up taking the white cards.
And again,
I do like that.
I think you mostly have to take it just because I wanted to take the 2-card pile no matter what, but I would have preferred Last Breath Dissolve, to be honest. But
they're cheaper.
If it's Last Breath Elspeth, you kind of have to just go for it because, again, Elspeth will allow you to win quickly, and you have to be cognizant of your time a little bit.
Yeah, card quantity doesn't matter as much. And you see, there it is, Stormbreath Dragon from Jeremy. And this is going to elicit a Supreme Verdict play. The question for Jeremy is whether he wants to send any of this at Jace.
Yeah,
I think he still has to.
This is exactly the type of thing that Jeremy needed to try to get back into it. But again, they are both going to get met by a Supreme Verdict. Adrian did draw a land, so Adrian's still in pretty good shape here if he can just keep drawing land.
He's down to 12 off that swing. We see Wear Tear. That's actually a pretty good draw for Jeremy.
That's great.
There is an enchantment in play, so he can Wear Tear, get his hammer back. He could activate Hammer and immediately go to work.
Or he can play Frostburn Weird too.
Yeah.
I kind of like getting Frostburn Weird out there because he doesn't have that much mana to work with just yet. So if he top decks a Stormbreath Dragon, he won't be able to cast it if he loses one of his lands.
Right. So you see that Tear will hit. He'll tear apart that enchantment. Then I'll go ahead.
If you cast Weird, you're still attacking for 3 no matter what.
Right. I think he's coming to the same conclusion. Casts Frostburn Weird, pumps Frostburn Weird, swings for 3, and Adrian is down to 9. Now, it's still just a top-decked land that Adrian needs, and that'll be Elspeth. Now, to be fair, he pumped that. He knew he had given Adrian a Last Breath, so by pumping there, he is. Well, he still probably just has to pump, but it's unfortunate. He knows that it can get Last Breathed then. And now Jeremy is in trouble. Elspeth's great against these Devotion decks, and Adrian has one resolved.
So Jeremy's just going to make a Golem here. Let's see what he decides to do if he's going to attack with everything. Oh, looks like he might have drawn an Ash Zealot as well.
He has the 3/3 Golem, Frostburn Weird, but the The army that Elspeth's making each turn is fierce against him. We'll see if he can.
I kind of like just jumping everything in front of the golem
In front
here.
of the golem, yeah. He can afford to take. Elspeth can afford to take some hits as long as she doesn't take all the hits.
Yeah,
Yep.
so both creatures are attacking Elspeth, but Adrian's just going to jump block there. Maybe
That's
he's afraid
fine.
of.
That's fine too. If he has, he does. We do know he has more removal in his hand. Maybe he just needs that turn to untap.
Adrian's speeding up a little bit now, so it looks like he should be able to win in 10 minutes as long as Elspeth stays in play. So let's see. We're going to see a detention sphere go after the hammer again. And now Adrian's just going to pass the turn back. So Jeremy, his options are getting limited here. He has just one golem and a frostburn word in play. I think he drew an Ash Zealot the turn before, so he can play an Ash Zealot as well, but he knows that he's going to be, Adrian has a last breath.
Yeah, well, it's really Stormbreath Dragon that he's looking to draw here, right?
Yeah, but he sacked the land, so he doesn't even have 5 mana yet. So he basically needs runner. He needs a land and a Stormbreath Dragon to kind of get something going.
Yeah, and he has to do it before Adrian has Dissolve or Revelation. And I believe Adrian already has the Dissolve.
Yeah.
So Ash Zealot is cast.
Fanatic Amogus it could help a little bit. It could come down and ping away at the Elspeth a little bit.
And in comes the team. So 2/2, 1/4, and 3/3. These I would have to think are all going at Elspeth again, but Azorius Charm will take care of the Golem. And I think everything in front of Ash Zealot.
Or Frostburn Word.
Either.
Yeah.
Just going to go one in front of both.
I like that. Again, it doesn't really matter. You don't really, given the amount of removal you have in your hand, you don't really care.
Yeah, it does give Jeremy the ability to top deck a Fanatic of Mogus and then deal a lot of damage that way because you're not actually clearing the board. But I mean, depending on what you have in your hand, it's possible that just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it would only be 5, so you still won't be able to deal with the Elspeth. And Elspeth could be lethal next turn. Right. Or no, not lethal, but it could go ultimate.
We have a Chandra Pyromaster drawn for Jeremy. One of his better late game cards, but really the red deck it just has trouble with Elspeth.
What is that in Jeremy's lap? Is that a giant stuffed bunny?
It's a giant. People are saying it's a giant Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
But so yes, there is a giant stuffed animal in his lap.
So Chandra Pyromaster comes down, and that is immediately going to get met by a Dissolve. So now Adrian in firm command here.
Well, he has the ability to make an emblem next turn. He may wait one turn so that his Elspeth can live when he makes the emblem. Both creatures are swinging here, presumably at Elspeth. Still both at Elspeth. And I think Adrian's now going to go down the path of starting to kill some creatures. There's no mana untapped, so he could trade one soldier with Frostburn Weird.
Yeah, so I actually just like doing that.
Yep.
And then you could even Last Breath. Oh, but it looks like he doesn't care because he's not going to ultimate next turn. He already decided he's not going to ultimate next turn. So
sure,
he could have chose the Last Breath, the Ash Zealot there, but he's going to hold on to it, maybe making sure that Fanatic and Mogus.
Yep. Casting Jason. Here's where he needs to change his line. Just make it be quick. You know, like you said, let's build up toward that Elspeth ultimate.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for him to lose though. Even with 7 minutes, Elspeth can just win the games quickly. So this is the exact type of situation that Adrian needed. He needed an early Elspeth to come down. So turn 6 Elspeth. Even with 7 minutes left, he should be able to win.
And he takes the Blind Obedience. That further closes off some of Jeremy's outs. Cards like Stormbreath Dragon, now not nearly as big of a threat. He'll cast Blind Obedience. And now the attack begins. 3 soldiers hit Jeremy down to 19. And ship back. This should be good. Over the course of the next few turns, Adrian should be able to find the rest of the damage that he needs.
Looks like we have a Boros Reckoner come down here.
Yep.
Comes to play tapped.
Yeah, and it looks like there won't be good attacks for Jeremy at this point.
Yeah, Jeremy could attack with the Ash Zealot, but Adrian likely just going to either chump block it or he could throw all 4 in front of it, allow first strike damage to resolve, and then kill the Ash Zealot.
So
that's exactly what happens.
The Pokemon that Jeremy's holding is Tepig. This is one of the fire starter Pokemons. See, so similar like your Charmander. It's one of the, but apparently it's one of the newer generation ones when you get the choice at the beginning. This is the fire Pokemon that he chose.
Got it. Makes
Which
sense.
I always chose the fire Pokemon when I played them.
Given the deck. So the gate's going to get taken, and the Detention Sphere is going to go to the bottom of Adrian Sullivan's deck. Play land for the turn. Uptick Elspeth again. 5 creatures coming in. And looks like that's what's going to happen. Yep.
Yeah, and this should be a swing for 5. Elspeth's at 7. Next turn, she will command armies to fly over to victory.
So this could be a pretty sick turn for Adrian.
A lot of damage.
Because Boros Reckoner can attack, and if he blocks with a token, Jeremy can redirect the damage from Boros Reckoner to the Elspeth to keep it from going ultimate.
Oh, gross.
But Adrian could last breath his own token before damage.
All right.
So to make sure that he could stop it, so he can make sure Elspeth goes on the ultimate next turn.
Or, he could just let it happen and Celestial Flare the Reckoner.
That's right. That's another option, I guess.
That's the control play. Maybe like, I can just let Elspeth take 3, make some more 1/1s. Like, things aren't getting bad, right?
And there they come, both tapped.
Okay, tapped out, creatures tapped, lands tapped, no cards in hand. All right, Elspeth, Emblem.
I don't think he even drew a card for the turn. He is playing much faster now.
All right, it should be safe. There we go. Some card that's an Elspeth token, and he swings across. There we go.
Jeremy's making him add it up, make sure.
For how much? Luke Jensen's like, well, that's enough. All right. So Adrian Sullivan moves to 4-0, playing blue-white control. Jeremy Maciolek down to 3-1.
So, again, even though Adrian lost the first game, he was able to pull out games 2 and 3. And I kind of felt that, the blue-white player still had a slight advantage just because, again, in general, I think against non-black devotion decks, I think Supreme Verdict decks just have an advantage.